Hello everyone. First of all, thank you Renewable Energy Mart for giving me this opportunity. I'm very humbled and privileged to speak with the enthusiasts and startup companies who can actually change the whole economics of this power sector, as well as the greatest vision of our Prime Minister making India as a Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. So as a person from the electric field, I can see a lot of opportunities towards this emerging technologies, whether it is energy storage or e-mobility. So before jumping into the subject, let me introduce myself. I am Bindu Madhavi. I am the manager for India Energy Storage Alliance, which is a leading association for electric vehicles and energy storage. So I have been part of Energy Storage Alliance right from 2.5 years right now. As a whole, I'm a power sector policy expert with coming of decade of experience in this field. So I'm also chairing policy working group of ISA along with our member companies. And we are working with the government as well as the industry like a mediator, what is the needs for the industry and what policies and regulations are needed in place. Before joining CES, I was associated with the leading transmission companies, also thermal generation companies. I have done my master's in electrical power engineering with business from University of Strathclyde. So just to introduce ISA, we are now 130 members plus company. We have Exicom, Emad Raja, SB Energy, World Bank, all of them as partners of our association, leadership circle of our association. Also, we have 130 many MOUs which we have signed with these global alliances like US, UK, etc. So we make, only vision and mission for ISI is to make in energy, grid and transportation sector more competitive, and India should be a global leader in research, manufacturing and adoption of storage technologies or e-mobility technologies by 2022. So before I jump into topic like what are the opportunities isn't there in front of it. So I should say there are the policies and regulations which should go hand in hand with the technology developments or the other developments which is going across the country that can actually lead a way. It can show a pathway how we can go across or what are the opportunities we can make sure. So right from 2013, there was a good development in the government as well as in the state governments. There is a increased interest on the energy storage and e-mobility companies. With the right from there, we are actively engaged with the government on that. In 2013, MOP and CEA, Central Electricity Authority, they had made a task force and they are done a study on what kind of large-scale integration is going to happen because of renewables in the future, and what is the need for storage and what kind of technologies is required to make the firm grid power firm. Similarly, National Electricity Mobility Mission Plan was launched in 2030 with a vision document by DHI to make our transportation sector more into sustainable and go into the EV way from between the 2020 to 27. So in starting with that, we are working with both DHI and ministries, different ministries. We have done a reports or we are doing advocacy on the regulation changes, what it is needed. Much important policy which has come up recently in 2021 is about the PLI, production linked incentive, which was allotted by Prime Minister Central Cabinet for 50 gigawatt hour of ACC battery manufacturing. So when this battery manufacturing is coming up in that large scale, it's just not limited to the 50 gigawatt. There is a long-term vision which is behind this one, like not just 50. We have 3 different areas wherein we need the demand. Say it is a power sector or the e-mobility sector or the digital sector or the telecom sector. All these areas we need storage or batteries. So with that in vision, ACC Advanced Chemistry Cell Battery Manufacturing was approved by Prime Minister for 18,100 crores. So with that, when there is a indigenous manufacturing which is coming in India, there is equally importance of getting the demand also from India. What is the demand is met by? That demand is met by energy storage applications in the power sector, equally in the e-mobility sector. So why there is a need for flexible resources in Indian grid. Like everybody, like we know, even Tushar Bharadwaj was defining like how the Indian grid is going up. What is the next vision? 175 gigawatt by 2022 and 400 gigawatt by 2030. That is the long-term vision that ministry has come up with. So if when there is an increase in trend of renewables, there is a decreasing in trend of conventional. So when there is a decrease in conventional sources, we have to make sure that somewhere this power has to be firm. We have to make sure grid is firm, because solar cannot be there all the day or wind cannot be there all the day. It can be fluctuating a lot of times. So there should be some technology which should be available that can make the flexible resource. So that is where this battery storage or generally energy storage has to come up with. So CEA advocates that there should be a capacity of 107 gigawatt of hour of battery storage support is required by 2020 30 as a RE target. So when I'm saying this kind of generation capacity mix is coming up, so where does it all go? So like I'm saying, when I'm saying energy storage, generally of notion, energy storage is only a pump storage or a lithium or lead acid. No, there is a different kind of chemistries that are available under this technology, say electrochemical, mechanical, bulk chemical, gravitational, thermal storage, as well as electrical storage, power electronics, etc. So we have to choose the right technology for the right application. Then only this asset class will be useful for the all the sections of the power sector or any kind of sector which we are utilizing it. So when I'm talking about the utilizing of battery storage in the grid services, it's just not limited to the RE integration. It can do much more than RE integration. What all it can do? It can act as a system operator for the frequency, like from the Indian Electricity Grid Code from 2013, we are under the frequency of 49.5 to 50.5 around. So now there is a greater importance when we are going towards one nation, one frequency, and one grid kind of culture tomorrow. Then we have to make sure that frequency has to be come to the normal level, that is 50 hertz, as early as possible. That point, that 50 hertz capacity, which will bring is the storage. Also, the flexible ramp up or ramp down, which is difficult for the thermal power plants or any other thermal conventional plants, which can be done by use of battery storage. Similarly, for the transmission and distribution referral, if with this kind of 450 gigawatt of RE is coming up in the future by 2030, there is also equally portion of coming up of transmission and distribution. So imagine how much of investment we are going to do. So when a storage is envisaged during this planning, so some amount of this T&D can be reduced and that burden can be left off from the total investment. Similarly, for the RE integration, for the RE curtailment issues can be solved. For the generator, same time capacity firming can be done. One more good operator of a microgrid, that is the behind the meter, or like we say solar PV, etc. So what is the problems with the solar PV right now? So when a developer is producing the power itself from its own invoices, say it is a captive or whatever internal uses, or for the industry whatever it is doing, so it is a some amount of the power is going back to the grid. So this might cause some trouble to the discoms to adjust this unknown power or sudden supply of power from the this solar PV. How that can be managed? By managing of a storage utility at a utility side, that is at the discom side, or at a some part of the generator side of the solar PV generator side. So this amount, this whatever excess power that they are generating, that can be stored and they can be reutilized when there is a night time or when there is no sun, when on a rainy day, this battery storage can be of help. So that's how they have this storage has large capacities of revenue models. So like I explained before, solar and wind is both. We cannot explain like how it can be, what kind of differences it can come. So wind and solar profile can be match up and demand shape can be made up in the firm power using the this balancing resource, that is storage. So ISA, we as a part of our analyst team or our consulting team, we do the complete analysis and complete detailed study on the both stationary storage and the electric vehicle market. We emphasize that there will be a capacity of minimum of 328 gigawatt hour by 2027, and a worst case it can be at least 196 gigawatt hour demand. So similarly, we come to the e-mobility sector. There is a total demand of 335 gigawatt hour is expected from the electric vehicle. So as you can see, there is lot of future for both these sectors which is coming up, and there is lot of scope for opportunities to pick up. So similarly, the manufacturing rate, the one of the main concern from the government parties or the developers is about the price portion, which is slightly higher before. So that is where I am coming. Over the years from the 2012 to 2019, there is a very significant decrease in the total price, which itself is showing in the manufacturing cost. So it has come down. Now many of the SECI, even Solar Energy Corporation, which is coming out with the RE tenders, they do come with the storage because of this very reason, that storage is affordable right now with many kind of technologies available right there. You just have to choose what is the right technology for the right application. That's all. If that matching is done, definitely it is affordable for anyone. So this is what I'm talking about, the SECI 1 gigawatt of tender which come in 2020, along with the RE plus storage kind of project which is released by SECI. There was a cost of BES 4.3 per kilowatt hour, and for PHS it is a not 57 per PH, 4.04 rupees per kilowatt hour. You can see very slight difference between these two. The reason being, uh, still you have, when you compare with the pumped hydro, you have many issues, like it cannot come into it should have a must run process. It will take 10 years of time to come into, entire picture has to done, and there is also clearances part that is of a very mess. I have to explain you now, there is a out of 100 hydro plants available in India, only 40% or 50% is right now in working condition. So in that scenario, what is more flexible? To look at the energy storage technologies, just not limited to pumped hydro. We have to see wherever the technology should be open, the technology should be agnostic. So whichever technology will come and qualify in that portion, that has to pick up and that has to given a chance. So what are the generation policies that is available for the power sector, where we can see NEP, that is National Electricity Policy, which is a Bible next to Electricity Act, which can define whole electricity or power sector in India, that recently has released its draft, and it was recommending to importance on the storage and the capacity to be included, and a midterm review is needed for the planning and etc. Similarly, we have National Wind Solar Hybrid Power Policy, which talks about any states and central policies which are targeting RE plus storage or RE. When I am saying, it should not be, it don't have to be just solar, wind plus storage. It can be solar plus storage, same time wind plus storage. Based on the requirement, they have to pick up the right thing, that's all. So we have also RTC power, that is the around the clock power for DISCOM is needed. When they are RTC is taking from a, DISCOM is taking RTC power from a generator, that is RE generator, then he somewhere he has to make sure he has to give the 85% of availability to them. So how they can make sure that of 85%, that they can be backed up by either by any kind of generation. It can be conventional, it can be storage, or it can be gas. There storage plays a major role. This tender is rolled out also recently, so we are going to see the results within few days. Similarly, ancillary service regulation for the frequency deviations or profile or any demand and supply things, we have three major areas there: primary reserves, secondary reserves, and tertiary reserves, all in where battery storage is going to come up and support the grid integration. So there a grid can there also storage is going to play major role. Similarly, like I explained you about the PV solar PV plus storage kind of market models. That models is being incentivized by Ministry of Power right now, so that they avoid the unutilized or sudden power to the DISCOM, so that they can also manage. Same time, it will be beneficial to the consumer as well. So that is, plus they are getting incentivized. That kind of models is now getting up. There is a lot of opportunity at that front. And we also have a national electricity plan transmission. There also they are talking about the importance of energy storage, and we have different states which has come up with different solar policies or wind policies or wind solar hybrid policies, wherein they are talking about the large range of opportunities where storage can contribute to. Similarly, coming to the e-mobility sector, we have this great FAME India scheme, which was launched in 2015, and FAME 2 was launched in 2019 April, which is going to end up to March 2022, might be extended also. But part of that, they are issuing many of the benefits or incentive to the developer, pilot projects, charging infra, etc. So there is a very promising market there through FAME India scheme. Similarly, we have EV charging stations which are coming up. Because EV charging is not involved into any kind of generation, distribution, or transmission, Ministry of Power has decided to treat this EV charging whatever is a delicensed activity. So whoever the opportunity belongs there, they don't have to go and do the entire work of licensing and going through the clearances, etc. When they do all the permissions in place, they can just simply start this charging stations. So that is also a one huge opportunity out there. Similarly, we have National Mission on Transformative Mobility and Storage, which talks about the strategy and what kind of structure is required. Similarly, we have phased manufacturing program. Right now, we have a lot of dependency on China and other Asian countries for the batteries or the e-mobility. So to lessen or to burden reduction of that kind of dependency, this phased manufacturing program has come up. Within 5 years, what are the raw materials that are required for the EV that will be done in the internally or indigenously that will be used. So what are the startups that are available across energy storage value chain? There is a equal startups which are available for the OEMs or for the recyclers, in the component manufacturers, in the raw material. Similarly, you have fleet operators, cab aggregators, charging infra companies, battery recycling. One more thing is in development is the developers or IT software which is required for all these startups. Alliances, design and engineering. There is a lot of scope for the startups for the storage and EV technology providers. Also, I can see current opportunities like I explained you over before what are the policies are available. So storage provider can be an independent asset, or it can be integrated with the RE, or it can be a DISCOM asset. Just that it has to have an open access and connection to the grid. And it can act as a frequency response, so it can be an independent resource there as well. Also for the battery manufacturing, there is a lot of scope and there is a lot of opportunities right now. And there are also many state policies which are offering these benefits to MSMEs. There is a behind the meter applications, microgrids, and there is a clear case of replacement of diesel generators with the batteries in coming few years. So there is a lot of opportunity behind the meters at the internal levels for the telecom towers, raw material manufacturing, etc. Coming to what are the opportunities for e-mobility startups, there is a lot of opportunities in this space already. Many of them has taken place. Many enthusiasts has been given a very significant amount of investments there. So you can see there are digital technologies will be coming up. EV logistics startups are there. Innovative solutions who can give for the EV infra and business models like battery swapping or a vehicle to grid applications like electric boards, aerial transportation. There is a lot of scope there. EV components and battery providers also can play a major role. Manufacturing incentives, similarly, you are getting from every state. Many states has already explained that. So there are capital subsidies over all the investment you are putting up there. There are land exemptions, there are registration exemptions, there are tax exemptions. So there are a lot of benefits that have been offered there. Recently, DST also launched a grand challenge for developing Indian standards for electric vehicle charging infrastructure. So that can be utilized when you have a proven technology or you have a R&D working on that. If that grand challenge has been done, there is a significant amount or significant support from the DST and Government of India. So just to explain you what kind of investments in the last quarter happened, it is a Euler Motor has announced 30 crores from its new investors. Hyderabad-based solar rooftop has raised $2.4 million in equity investment from Carbon Neutrality Ventures. Similarly, these are some of the other examples which has a huge potential, and you can see new commitments of millions worth for the startups. So there is a clear indication that there is a lot of scope for both these markets. Some of the success stories can be Shell, backed up by Smart EV Trust Motors, has announced that he has raised undisclosed amount from the angel investors. Also, Simple Energy, which has announced many electrical scooters. In recent times, we can see the trend of new electric scooters coming up from the startup. Similarly, Gurgaon-based electric field startup Urban Mobility Moving has partnered with EV OEMs and launched operations 3 cities: Delhi, Bangalore, and Pune. One OEM being Hero Electric, and they have raised 1 million of seed funding just from the senior executives of these investment banks and private equity companies in the one single angel roundup that happened. So to provide much more financial assistance, there is a from Department of Commerce, they have started Startup India Seed Fund Scheme that has been approved on 1st April 2021 for I think around 758 crores or something. It was expected about 3,600 startups can be make use of from that. So as part of ISA, we are doing this startup cohort program. It's an initiative for raising startups in this mobility. So what we offer is about the industry connect, government connect, investment connect. Already we have many startup companies part of this and made utilize of this platform. And we have MOUs with the Investment India, Startup India, Ministry of Renewable Energy, so which that startup companies can be make utilize of this platform. So if you want more about it, you can reach out to me. I can just connect you to the right person. One of the success of this startup member of ISR is it is a Finergy, an esteemed ex-ISA member. He has recently signed an MOU with Indian Oil Corporation. That is a very huge. So he utilized the platform. It is just one example. There are many more such examples. But if you want to know more about it, or you want to have a one-to-one discussion, you can write to me, or you can reach out to me for further discussion. Thank you.